Hello creative friends, my name is Susie and I am the owner of the Speckled Loon. Welcome to my channel. If you have never been here before, I want to say thank you for finding us and I hope you like the content enough to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. If you have been here before and are a returning subscriber, welcome back and I hope you give this video a like as well. This video is all about our Spring 2024 DIY Decor Kit quarterly subscription box. We introduced our quarterly boxes back in 2023 and this kit will be available around February 20th. If you subscribe to our box, it means that every 3 months you will get a box of unfinished DIY decor projects from our workshop sent right to your door. Each box is full of fun base pieces with interchangeable sets that work for the current seasons and holidays. All of our projects are small, very easy to complete, and you can display them on your favorite accent shelf or tiered tray. And you can just store them in the box they came in when they're not in use. The instructions in this video are for the Spring 2024 installment of our quarterly subscription box. If you are interested in joining the box, I'll encourage you to get on our wait list. We only open up for new subscribers a couple of times a year, so the link to join our wait list is in the text below this video. And if you're on the wait list, you are going to get the first chance to claim a box when we are accepting new members. Our kits include everything you need to finish your projects except the paint. I want you to use the paint and colors you love and are used to, and you probably already have them on hand. But as we go along, I will let you know the paint colors I use in case you want to duplicate the look that I'm creating. So let's get started completing our projects in this awesome box. It's time to let your creativity flow. To quickly go over everything in your kit. It's going to come boxed in this nice little box. You'll have some instructions and things, but this is how everything comes. Packages are individually wrapped. There's also color-coded labels on each item in the box so you know which item goes with what. Just so you know, the blue labeled items are going to be your base pieces and your tools. Then there is a green label on all the St. Patrick's Day items. There is a pink label on all the spring related items. There is an orange label on the Easter set items. And if you order the optional extra set, that is going to have some gray labels on it. So I encourage you to take everything out of the box and then sort it by the color coded labels. That's going to make it easier for you to find everything. Our set does consist of some fun base pieces. The main base piece is this little cathedral window. There's a box sign, a interchangeable garland, and then this fun little riser base that we include that holds either the cathedral shelf or the box sign. And each kit comes with a circle insert and a banner. This is the St. Patrick's Day kit. Again, the items with the green label. 2 or 3 things get to tuck into that little shelf. You've got a amount of stands that you can put things in as well, and then each sign magnetically goes into that square sign insert, and each tag goes onto the end of the garland. Then when it's time to swap out and you want to do the next theme, you just take it out of the box, put the old one away in the box, and display your next one. This is our spring one with the double-sided watering can, the little banner, the circle item, and Flower Patch Bunny and the flower. When that one's ready, you take it all down, store it away, and then bring out your Easter items. This fun garland tag, and then we've got a couple of bunnies and a flower pot that go in, as well as your circle carrot, your bunny butt square sign, and yet another banner. This one is fun. You can just tie it around those little posts. Then if you did opt in to get the bonus or extra set, it is a more religious Easter set, and that's got this nice rustic cross, a pair of Easter lilies, and then another cross with a dove, a small country church, along with a banner and a circle insert. The banner says He is risen, and then there's a cross on the insert. And we'll go over all the parts and pieces and details as we go ahead and make this kit. Next, we're going to go over all your tool items included. We are going to go over all the tools and extras that are in your kit, and then the items that you need to provide on your own. But you will have a little package of some Q-tips. These are great for cleanup and applying paint in small areas when you don't have a small enough brush. The next item are some foam wedges, and we use these to apply paint on our projects throughout. If you need bigger paint brushes, you can just provide those yourself, but these do most of it. You're going to get a tube of super glue, and you're just going to unscrew the cap and put in that fine applicator tip, and that's going to be what you use to hold everything together. If you need super fine application of the glue, go ahead and just put some on a toothpick and put it on, and you can use the toothpick to kind of score out those painted lines that are scored. You're going to have a set of 3 jar lids and a magnet that will work with the square box sign that is in your kit. You're also going to get a metal disc and 3 magnets for those extra set for the little circle inserts that are in your kit. And then you're going to have banner hooks also that are included for all the banners in your kit. And if you get the extra set, you'll get extra of all the magnets and banners and that type of thing. You get a bonus crafting tool of this fun tassel maker and some yarn. It makes 3 different sizes of tassels, and we show you how to use it in the video. And you're also having video and printed instructions. The printed are mainly for reference and color reference and inventory list, and use the videos for more detailed. You're going to get some slotted stands to help you display your items. That wider slot is for your layered pieces. And then you're going to need a few things of your own. The main thing of what you are going to need, of course, is paint. I don't want to assume what paint colors you want to use, and to keep the price of the box affordable, I'm just letting you use the paint you have on hand. Chalk paint works great, but you can do acrylic paint too. We provide those sponges, but if you've got brushes you like, by all means go ahead and use your own brushes in your own stash. I like to use paint markers, fine-tipped and wide-tipped ones that you can get anywhere for our small pieces. They're great. And if you want to get a more subtle look with your coloring, especially for flesh tones and pinks, I like to use watercolor pencils with just a few drops of water and a blending brush to blend them, or the sponges we provide. You want some sharp scissors for cutting your fabric and your string on the ribbon, so that works great if they're super sharp. And paper plates, I use those to mix colors and just put my paint on to use it as a palette. And some painter's tape, I like to make a loop with it and tape it onto a plate for the small items and use it to mask off things if I want to paint a straight line, that type of thing. And then probably a box of wet wipes or baby wipes or makeup wipes, or even paper towels that are wet to clean up, little blending. Next, we are going to go over painting and assembling all the base pieces in the next section of this video. Pay attention to the techniques because we'll be using them throughout all the items in every project. The first base piece we are going to assemble and make is the bonus riser base. I like to throw a bonus in every once in a while, a little something to display your items on. And I came across this little tray idea and I thought it was great. I have this little bamboo tray and 4 little legs in a Ziploc for you, and they'll be labeled. Now you can leave them unpainted, or I'm going to show you how to paint the legs if you want to, but this part is optional. This can be a no paint project if you want. But I'm just going to take a little loop of painter's tape and my brown antique wax and a sponge and kind of go all over each little leg. And they kind of look like an upside down snowman in a way. So you want to get in all those grooves, and if you have trouble getting into any of the grooves, just go ahead and take a wet paper towel or a little bit of water and smooth it out. And it's going to give an uneven look, and that's kind of the look I was going for anyway, because it's like an old worn table leg is what I'm going for. And so here you can see the water kind of just evens everything out. Then I'm going to do the other legs, and we'll have all 4 done. Next, you're going to want to scuff up each leg part that's going to attach to the base with a little bit of sandpaper. This is just some 220 grit I had on hand. And there's a bit of a finish on the tray, or the little riser. So you're going to want to do in each corner, just scuff it up a little bit. And if you don't have sandpaper, just a nail file or something like that will be fine. It just helps the glue to adhere a little better. And here I'm just playing with the placement of where I want them to be. I'm going just on the inside of each corner. I'm doing a generous amount of my glue, several dots all together right there. And I'm going to hold it for a few seconds to give it a good initial set. And then I'm going to progress on and do each of the other legs. And this is the glue I'm using, but you're going to have a tube in your kit. That's the glue you're going to use. The stuff I use, I make so many items, I have a bigger supply of glue on hand that I use. But this super glue that I give you will be plenty to finish up your projects. So there I'm just doing the second one, and then I'm going to get the other legs attached. Again, I'm giving each one a little set for about 30 seconds or so, just holding it. I speed up the video so you don't have to sit and watch me hold things forever, but once you have all 4 of them on and you've got a good temporary set, then I am going to take the actual box full of items in the project and set that on top and give that some weight to the setting, and then leave it on for a good 10-20 minutes just to get it nice and firm, and then it's done. And now you can see the comparison between the unpainted and painted legs. I think they look sharp painted black too. But once you're all done, then you can take out your either the cathedral shelf window that we're going to make in a couple minutes, or the box frame, and they'll sit nicely on the riser. Our next base piece is the interchangeable square box sign that comes in your project. It's got a little hanger and sawtooth hanger and rope hanger, and if it's a little rough, just take your sandpaper and give it a little sand. You're going to want to find where the canning lids are in your kit and pull out the magnet and tape dot that come with it. That's what's going to go in the middle, and that's what's going to hold each square sign in that square box frame. So to paint it, it's pretty easy. I take, again, my antique wax and a sponge, and I put a little bit on, and then I take a wet paper towel and rub it across. Now this would work with any color paint to make it into a stain. You put a little bit on, spread it out, and then immediately follow it up with a wet paper towel or a baby wipe, and then that gives you that nice stain look. So if you wanted to stain this blue or yellow for Easter, that type of thing, you could do any of that. I'm just going with a neutral brown because there's color in all the signs, so I just thought that would go nicely with it. And that's all there is to getting it painted. Now to put on the dot, you're just going to take one side of the tape dot and remove the backing, attach it to your magnet, and then remove the backing on the other side of it and tap it right into the middle of your box sign. It doesn't have to be perfect, just so it's the middle, and that canning lid will attach to it. We are going to tackle the interchangeable wood bead garland next. This project has 2 parts to it. We're going to make this nice wood bead garland, but we are also going to make the tassel that goes on the end of it with the tassel maker. You're going to find the yarn packaged with all the wood beads along with some string, that clasp, and then also the bonus piece will be packaged just separately. And you're going to want to gather up a pair of scissors for cutting the ribbon and the yarn in this and the string in this project. So we're going to start out by working with the tassel maker. And you're going to want to get your tassel maker out. You're going to want to get your string out and you are going to want to get out the yarn, and the tassel maker makes 3 different sizes. We're going to do the longest size, and this is what the smallest size looks like. Kind of looks like a little ghost, and then there's one size in between, and you can pick whatever size you want to do. I'm going to show you how to do it on the longest side. So when we work with our tassel, in the end, we are going to want to have the string running through the middle. So I start out with having the string doubled up and kind of just across the top of the tassel maker. You could tape it there if you wanted. I'm just going to hold it with my hand, and eventually as I wind the yarn, it's going to hold it into place. I like to have my yarn off and to the right, and then I am just winding it around. If you're left-handed, you could flip this around and do it the other way. I'm just doing it till I run out of yarn basically and have a little bit left over. Then I'm going to maneuver that string up to the top, and I've got the loop on one side and the straight on the other. Now I'm going to take that extra piece of string that was wrapped around the yarn, or extra piece of yarn, I guess it was holding it together. I am going to tie it super tight in that slot there one time, and then I'm going to flip it over, and I'm going to do a double knot on the other side. So there we go. And then I'm going to get the string out of the way, and I'm going to do a double knot. Just pulling it as tight as I can, and then we're going to even it all up once we slide it off. So now I'm going to take the string and pull the straight end through the loop, and that way our string is permanently attached to the top of our tassel, so it's super easy to string on our wood beads. So I'm giving that a nice hard pull, and then after I take this off, I can get it even tighter. Now I'm just going to slide this right off, an open end, and you've got a nice looking part of the tassel so far. We need to now get the ends of it cut. So I'm putting my finger through that loop. I'm taking my good sharp scissors. I just got these nice pretty ones at Walmart, and I'm giving it a trim. Just slice right through, and then I'm taking all of it, gathering it up in my hands, and just giving it a little haircut so it will look nice and even on all the ends. And then your tassel is ready to go. Now you can keep that tassel maker for any future ones that you would like to make. Yarn, embroidery floss, twine, anything like that makes a good tassel. So now you're going to decide what order you want for your beads. This is the order I did: mint green, white, pink, natural, yellow, then blue. You can do yours in whatever you want. You also have that clasp. You've got your little twisty tie there for threading the beads. Sometimes it's too thick, so if it feels like it's too thick to you, just take your scissors and trim up on either side of the wire that's in the middle, and then it'll be nice and thin, but you'll still have the rigidity of the wire to have it act like a needle. Then I'm going to the end of the string, and I'm doubling up my little bread tie or twist tie, and I'm going to start with the green and end with the blue bead, and I'm just going to go along that route right there. You can do yours in whatever order you want. You could do it random. However, I'm just type A about how I do my garland and like it all to be symmetrical and in the same order. Now, if you come across a bead that just doesn't want to go through, sometimes there's a little wood caught up in there. If you take your scissor and just dig in a little bit, or toothpick or something, that'll get that extra stuff out of there. And then once I have one course of the beads on, I just pull them all the way down to the tassel, and that's what one course looks like. Next is 2 courses, 3 courses, and we'll get the 4th course on. And this is what it looks like with all the beads strung up on your garland. Next, we're going to get the clasp on, and to do that, you're going to find your little clasp. There's a hole at one end. You are going to want to string. You cut some of the extra string off. You don't need quite so much. Just maybe cut it down to maybe where you have a foot left. Give that a cut. Then you're You're going to take your needle and just re-get it onto the new string, the same way you had it on the other string. And then you're going to take and thread it one time through that hole, that little eyelet hole at the bottom of that clasp, and get that lined up in there. And push it on through and bring it all the way up to that first bead. Next, I'm going to take the string and I am going to bring it around the back. Put this on here so it can zoom in. But I'm going to bring it kind of around the back and underneath. Bring it through that eyelet hole again, and then up, start bringing it up through the beads. One more time through that eyelet hole, and all the time I'm trying to get rid of the extra slack. I don't want a lot of extra slack here. So now I'm going to go back up through, I don't know, 2-3 beads, whatever beads you feel is a good amount. And it just takes a second to get it going, but I'm bringing it up. And as I'm going, I'm tightening it up to, again, get rid of that slack. And once I get up the amount of beads that I want, I'm going to do this little thing that we do on all our garlands, and we'll be doing it on all the tags too, where I take the needle off and I'm going to tie a knot, tie it one time around each other, like half a square knot or whatever, on one side, pull it tight, flipping it over around the string in the middle there, and I'm going to do a double knot this time. 1, 2, very tight. Then I'm going to bring in my scissors and I'm going to go in as close as I can so I don't have a lot of extra string hanging out, and I'm going to bury the knot in any excess string up in the hole of that bead so you don't see it. And this is ready now for us to attach our garland tags for each project. So each project's going to have a little D-ring on it, and you're going to just take that clasp, open it up, and slide that D-ring in there, and then you have got your interchangeable garland. Our final base piece is this Cathedral Window, and it's kind of the centerpiece of the kit. This is what it looks like all assembled. This one I did in all white and antiqued it. You're going to find it all together with a blue label on it in the bottom of your box. And it's going to have the following pieces. That's kind of the shelf, 2 little pillars, 2 little side pieces or braces, that round section that's going to hold the circle in, the front part of the fence, the base piece, and then there's that overlay with the big hole in the middle. And we'll eventually get all of this put together with and it's going to hold that magnet up top in that frame, and then that overlay will go over, and you're going to snap everything together. That little section there where it's curved, that tells you that's the bottom of those brackets. And we're going to glue and put this all together after you paint it. It's easier to paint it first and then assemble it afterwards. So we're going to get going on how I did the first one, and we're going to do the second one just a little bit different. But basically, I went through and gave everything a good coat of white. And on this one that's finished already, I did do white, and then I went in and antiqued it with that steel gray. Now, on the one that I do for us today, we're going to keep most of it white, but we are going to do that front overlay piece in the steel gray just to give it a little contrast so you can see what it looks like a little differently. And then I just use a black marker on that rim piece, that circular frame that's going to hold those inserts. I just feel like that gives me a better look, and it's super easy to just do with the black marker. So we're going to set everything aside and start getting set up to continue our painting. Now, the one thing I also do is on some of the smaller pieces that are going to show, I will do the back side of them. So I'm going to do the back side of that front fence and the 2 brackets. I'll show you how I did that, and this is how I painted everything else. I'm going to use this sponge and a little bit of white paint, And what I like to do for my smaller pieces is just take and make a loop with my tape, and that way it sticks to my paper plate and it doesn't move around, and I'm not having to stick my fingers on a wet painted piece or anything like that, and it keeps it good. Now on the outside I did do 2 coats of paint. When you're doing the inside, maybe 1 coat is all you're going to need. But I just take that sponge, dip it in the paint, wipe off a little bit of excess, and then I'm just being very careful around where the slots are. I don't want to get those all gooped up with paint. Reason being is that's where that wood is going to go in, and it's engineered to fit pretty perfectly in there. So what I would do if I got any paint in there, I would take a Q-tip or a toothpick and kind of dig it out. But I'm going to do coats on all of those other pieces as well, the front and the other side brace. And there I'm just cleaning the paint out. So I have them all with 1 coat, and that's all I need for the inside of that. I just don't like the look of bare wood when I got it displayed, so that's why I'm doing that. Now I did do initially this piece in white, and I've changed my mind. I want it to be gray. So I'm going to take my steel gray and I'm just going to go right over that white. That's the beauty of painting things white first. You can go over it with any color if you want. Now if you want to just start out and paint this gray right away when it's the bare wood, that's fine. I just had changed my way midstream. I'd seen where somebody had done one in gray and I liked how it looked, so I thought, well, I want to incorporate that into my design. Now I will tell you that I do have to do, the gray goes on splotchy on the first coat, so I do 2 coats. And if you get any overpaint, you could quickly, before it dries, wipe it up with a wet paper towel or a wet sponge. But you can also take, if you have a black paint marker, and just run it along the edge as well. And that's going to cover up any overpaint too, if that bothers you. If the overpaint doesn't bother you, that's fine. I just like a nice clean looking edge. And then I went back and I did a second, you can see how splotchy that gray is after 1 coat. I did a second coat and it looks much better. I'm going to let that dry, and in the meantime I'm going to put together all my other pieces. So I'm going to show you how I use my marker on this part. And we are going to be using these same painting techniques throughout all the projects. So I'm not going to show them in great detail on every other project. So just watch how they're done now, and then you'll see it quickly translates to other projects. So go ahead and with your marker, go around, and you could do it different. This would look sharp gray as well. But I just like the contrast of the black on the white. And once it's all done, that off and we can start assembling our different things. Now if you want to get an antique look, this is how I got the antique look on the white that I did. I just took a dry, kind of an old stencil brush, dipped it in the paint, and then dabbed it off, and then I just went around on the edges and rubbed it or did a little, quick brush. And if it gets too much, if you get too heavy-handed, you can take a little water and blend it in, or you can just go over it with more white paint. But I'm just kind of going on very gradually with it. It's hard to see on camera, but you can see on the piece that I did below, I did quite a bit of distressing. Now if this distressing is not for you, you can skip this step, but I have, like in my mind, I'm envisioning like an old country church that gets, there's some dust on the window, that type of thing. That's what I'm kind of going for, the look that I'm trying to achieve with this. Just a little bit. I'm not into super heavy distressing, but I do like a little bit from time to time. So I'm just going to continue to do that on the pillar covers and that type of thing. And it's easier to do all this distressing before you assemble your pieces. So that's why I'm going through and quickly doing a bit of a distress on each piece. You can also go in with sandpaper if you want as well. So now my gray overlay is nice, and what I'm doing now is I'm just going over it with a little bit of sandpaper to kind of lighten up those edges. You can kind of see how it gives a light look to those edges, just to yet further distress it. That's the look I'm going for. This is an optional step. You do not have to do it if you don't want to. So the first thing we're going to do is glue those two big pieces together. So you're going to get out your glue, and you just need a few dots of it is all you need. So I'm doing it all along the side and along the bottom, and I'm doing thin dots, little dots all along. And then I'm going to hold it together with some little clamps that I have. If you don't have clamps, we did give some away in the last box, but if you don't have any, clothespins work great too. So I'm just doing those very small little micro mini dots of glue so I don't get a lot of glue seeping out and a lot of excess. And then I'm going to take the overlay in one hand and the window base in the other, and I am going to line them up on a flat surface. This will make it so that they line up well and we're easily able to match them. And you want to look at your edges to make sure you don't have any big overlap from one side to the other. I'm just taking my hands and kind of squeezing them in together, doing that on the side and on the bottom. That good line up. And then I'm going to let those set. And then we need to start working on the rest of the shelf unit. So there I'm just doing my clamps. Like I said, if you don't have clamps, these are just from the Dollar Tree, but if you don't have any, you can just use clothespins. They work as well, but these just have a little of a stronger hold. So I did not paint the bottom of the shelf, just so it's easier to tell which is the top and which is the bottom, because that's not going to show. So the bottom of the shelf is bare, and you want your little curved pieces on the side to have the curve at the bottom, if that makes sense. And I'm just doing a dry fit. That end fits into that slot, and we are going to put glue on either sides of that end, and we're going to put a little glue into the slot. So I'm going to get out my glue. If you need super small dots, you can put your glue on a toothpick and put it on, but I'm just doing a little dab there on either side, and then I'm doing the glue on the inside of that little rectangle slot there. Then I'm taking the glued piece and putting it on again where that arches to the bottom, the unpainted bottom, and it goes on there nice and flat. Let that set up a little bit, and then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. I'm just going to set that down a little T-square right now, but I'm going to get the glue again on either side of that notch. Then I'm going to take and get a little bit of glue in that slot and line that up and get that one assembled as well. The next thing we want to do is get our front part ready to go on, and the front part is there just right by my right hand there. And again, we are going to do gluing in each one of those notches, and then we'll put some glue into that slot, remembering that the curved side or the curved end of that front piece is the bottom, just like on those little side braces. And the bottom is the unfinished part of the shelf. So I'm getting in the notches, and then I will get some, and I'm also doing the sides. And I'll get that piece, and I'll do a little bit of glue in each one of those slots, and on the sides as well. This takes a second to line up, but it does line up, so just trust it. And again, if you have too much paint on the inside or something like that, you'll want to just kind of get rid of that with a nail file or some sandpaper. But you're going to line that up, and then just give it a good snap together with your fingers. Press it till it snaps together. And there, you've got that. And next we got our little pillar covers, and those are going to go over the front left and front right. So just a small amount of glue, and you'll just want to make sure they don't hang over the bottom. You'll want to make sure that they are flush with the bottom, flush with each side. And then you've got your pillars all covered. After you have the pillars covered, then we're going to work on attaching this box shelf base to the back, the window back. So there, we're going to just let that set up. We'll do the other one quickly and get that done. And this is the most extensive assembly that you're going to have on any project. It is the centerpiece and the main piece, and it's detailed in your instructions with some pictures as well, if that helps you, but this is pretty step by step. So we're going to let those dry. Once they're dry, we can attach, but in the meantime, we'll go ahead and we will get our circle on there. So first I'm doing the magnet. So there's a small circle, you'll see. You'll just put a couple drops of glue in there and you're going to attach your magnet. Then the frame, the circle frame, that attaches right to that little circle cut out at the top of the window, you'll notice. And you'll just line that up. So now that is all ready to go, and if you want, you can take a toothpick if you have any glue leaking out and kind of clean that up. Clean up anything on that little circle with your markers if there's a mess or if your finger stuck to it with the glue, which happens to me all the time. So now we are going to attach this, and I'm just doing a dry fit first just to make sure it fits, and it seems to fit just fine. So next we're going to do this one, and I'm going to, after I dry fit it, I'm going to put glue on the notches and glue in the slots just like we did on our other pieces. So there's those notches where we're going to be putting our glue. 4 of them there, and then those slots. And I will also put them on the side slots as well. That's going to give us a good sturdy piece to work with. There we go. You can see. Very tiny amounts. It does not need to be a ton of glue. You don't want a lot of extra glue coming out. You can barely see it on camera. So there we go, we're going to line that up. Get that in there and give it a good snap. And that's what it should look like. It should look like at the bottom when it's done, and that's what it looks like from the top. Time to get working on the spring collection items in your box. You are going to find everything in your box for the spring collection with a pink label. The square sign will be in with all the other square signs inside the box frame. Your bunny and flower patch will be packaged together, and the insert and banner, circle insert and banner, are packaged together, as well as the garland tag. Let's start working on the spring flower box sign insert. This is going to go into that square box frame that we prepped earlier, and it will have a canning lid on the back that's going to attach to that magnet for easy swapping in and out. This project consists of the background, which I painted white, the crossbar side piece, the flower, and the flower insert. So the background I did paint white. I did 2 coats Waverly white with the sponge dauber. If you've got a bigger paintbrush, that'll work fine as well. I always do 2 coats of the white, and then this was a lavender color that I worked on that side piece. I did do agave blue just on a Q-tip with the flower insert. A marker would work great as well. And then for the flower itself, I didn't have any pink. So I mixed the crimson red and the white to get kind of a nice bright pink. I wanted a lot of color on this sign since the background was white. So instead of just showing you how I painted everything, I'm going to show you how I add the accents on the flower, since the painting gets kind of repetitive. So for this, I just found a marker that was a bit darker than the flower, kind of a bright pink, and I just tested it on a piece of paper till I found one that I like. And then I start at the top of each petal and then I drag down to the center, and I'm doing it on the left side of each petal to get kind of that highlight you can see. So you just rotate, drag down, press down and drag, and I'm trying to get it consistent along the edge of each petal, and if I get too heavy-handed or not enough, I just even them up afterwards so they all look similar. But it doesn't have to be perfect because it's a flower and nature's not perfect either. So then once I get all of those evened up and they look good, I'm going to take out my white marker to do these little accents, and I am using my Fine Point Arteza white marker. Now this does a good job, however, this particular brand, and I've noticed this with a lot of white markers, they chalk up or dry up easily, but they still have ink in them. So what I do to kind of release it and get it not dried out is I will take a little bit of isopropyl alcohol and just pour it into the lid of the bottle. This is just alcohol from the Dollar Tree. And I will get that marker in there and work it so the pumping action will work again, and it loosens it up a little bit. I pump it a little bit outside of the lid, and then I might put it back in the alcohol and do that again until I get that ink flowing. And sometimes it'll flow too much, so I like to practice with it off onto the side there just to make sure, and then just kind of with a light hand I'll do 3 small dots, and you can kind of see them there. This is a bit out of focus because I tried to zoom in really close for you so you could see what I was doing, but I think you get the gist of it. I use this technique throughout several pieces, but I do like the effect that it gives. It's just more of a little whimsical effect per se. It gives it a little accent than just a flat painted piece. And I just repeat that on each petal until I have the effect and look that I want, and that's what it looks like in the end. So now this is pretty easy to put together. The first thing I like to do is put on the side border piece. It is engineered to line up in the lower left-hand corner and then on the top and on the side. Exactly, it's the exact width of the border or of the base piece per se. And I just kind of line it up, and then you can kind of line it up on your table or a flat surface too if you need to stand it up and do that to get it to go. But it does line up perfectly. And then I like to take my little clamps and clamp it on either end. You got a couple of these clamps in the last box. If you did not get them in the last box or you misplaced them, clothespins will do the same thing. They're just kind of handy to have on hand, and then it allows you to start working on the next piece and not have anything slip or slide around. The glue sets up pretty quick, but it does have a few seconds of play time. So I did just a few drops of glue on the back of the flower, placed it where I wanted it, just kind of eyeballed it, and then I did glue on the center and got the center of the flower glued in. And by this time everything's set up on the border piece, so I'm going to go ahead and take and remove the protective backing on the adhesive on the back of the canning lid and place that right in the middle. It does not have to be exact, just as close to the middle as you get it. Press it down to give it a good adhere, and then it is ready to display in the square frame. The next thing we are going to make for our spring set is the watering can garland tag. It's double-sided, and then it's got these cute little beads and then a D-ring on the end that is going to go directly into that clasp of the base garland piece that we made previously. So the little watering can is double-sided, and I painted both sides yellow, and then I've got the little flowers that are just like the flowers we did on the previous project, painted those pink, and there's little dots to go inside each flower. Then for your beads, you're going to have 4 checkered flower beads and 4 corresponding colored beads and a little leaf bead, and your colors on that might vary than what's shown, but you have 4. And here's a quick look at everything kind of painted up. And what I'm going to do is just show you how I did the paint on the opposite side, since both sides have to be painted. I do 2 coats, sometimes even 3 coats of yellow, because yellow is just one of those colors. It does not cover great. So I make my little tape loop, and I just take my sponge and dip it into my yellow paint. It's called Maze from Waverly, and that's what it looks like with 1 coat. We're going to let that dry, do another coat, and while that's all happening, we're going to get to work on our beads. So you're going to want to take those out. And like I said, your colors are going to vary, but you know, you have 4 different colored of the check beads. What I'm doing here is just giving a little trim to the wire that I include for you. It's just a little too thick. I take the loop of my doubled up string, pull it through the D-ring, and then I am going to pull the other end through the loop. You'll see what I'm doing here. I'm just looping it over so I don't have to tie a knot on that D-ring. And that's what that's going to look like. Then I'm going to take my needle and put it on the other end of the string so I can, pardon me, so I can string through the beads. And I'm going to start off with one of the checked flower beads, and then this one is blue. It's got a corresponding smaller bead that goes with it that's going to go directly next to it, and that's how I'm doing it. You could do yours in a more random way. Again, I like mine to be this order, but you can do whatever order you would like. I really like the little check beads. I thought, as soon as I saw them, I thought, oh, those are perfect for our spring box. So once I get those all strung on, and I have this speeded up because it's just threading beads. The last one I do is that little leaf. My needle or my threader was a little too thick again. I trimmed it down, and then I just have it so the leaves are pointing up and toward the bottom of that last bead. And you'll see I'll get that through there in a second and pull it tight. So now all we have to do is get this attached to our watering can and then tie the ribbon around it once that's done. But we're going to put together all the elements in the watering can now after I've done my several coats and let that dry. I'm also doing the same thing on the flower that we did on the previous one, where I take my darker marker and make those little lines, and then I'm doing the accent of the 3 small dots, and I repeat that on the second flower, just like our previous project. If you need to see it up close, I do show it up close on the previous project, which was the square box sign. I'm just trying to get the paint to dry a little quicker on that watering can by waving a paper plate. I'm going to, on each side, attach a flower. Just a small drop of glue on each petal is all you need. Press that down, do a little bit of glue in the middle, put in your centerpiece, and your watering can is done. I'd let that glue set good before I, handle it and attach anything. So once that is done, then we're going to get to work on attaching the garland through. So I just take the handle of the watering can and I brought the string up through the bottom of it, and I'm going to bring it tighter to kind of get rid of the slack. I'm going to leave a little slack because there is a ribbon piece that we're going to do. I bring the string around and through the back again, and then up through that little leaf. And I'll show you up close here in a second how that works. But once I get that through, and I'm off frame here a minute so I can see what I'm doing. But once I get that through, I push it up through, and then you can tighten it up to get rid of any excess slack that you don't like at that point. Because it's still kind of got a lot of slack on it. You need to leave just enough for your ribbon. And then I'm going to go up through a couple of beads for that first solid bead. That's all I would need to do. I'm going to trim my string so it's a little easier to work with. And I'm going to do that same little trick that we did with the garland base when we made it. On one side, I just do a single knot, then I flip it over, and on the back side, around that center string, I do a double knot. This just gives us something for that knot to hang on to and stay permanent. I'll take my scissors and trim it in as close as I can. And then I'll just slide all the beads up, and then that knot gets hidden within that bead. So we'll go ahead and do that. And just slide them up, and then we have enough room for our ribbon. I like to take the ribbon, it's wired, so I give it a little twist. And I'm just doing a simple knot, square knot, one through there, giving it a nice little pull. And I like to do the bird's beak on mine, so there's a fold at the bottom and the wired part is at the top, and I cut at an angle up and away from the center, and then it gets that. Now this ribbon can fray a little bit. The way, if you've got fray check on hand, that'll work. Some people like to run a lighter along the edge. You can also do just a little dab of glue on each tip, but those are different ways you can keep your ribbon from fraying. But our garland is complete, and now it's time to attach it to our base garland with attaching the clasp around the D-ring. We're now going to make the Hello Spring banner that is going to go on the front of the cathedral window base that we made earlier. This consists of the base, the word spring, and then several little flowers and hello, and you're going to find it packaged with a circle insert. Now the base has got everything etched in so you know where to put the word spring and the letters for the hello. And then you can kind of free form the flowers. Now the hello and the flowers do have that adhesive backing to them. The word spring is big enough to just glue on. For the base, I just painted it a bright green. I took my emerald green and my white and made a lighter green than I normally had. I didn't have a light green. And then I just used that same maize yellow on the word spring. And then I went ahead and took markers on the little adhesive flowers and the word hello, and I just kind of alternated around a bunch of different spring colors like lavender, light blue, dark purple, different things like that. And I colored everything up so it would show up nicely on that sign. And like I said, these have got that adhesive backing, so they're super easy to get on there and have them stick. It's hard with glue on these small pieces, so I try to make them adhesive for you. But this is just how I'm using my paint markers. Again, I have the Arteza brand. You can use whatever brand you have on hand. They just make working with these smaller pieces 100 times easier. So I do encourage you to get some. You can buy one color at a time if you want at the craft store. So now we're just going to start putting our banner together, and it's pretty simple. You're going to do a few drops of glue on the back of the word spring. Like I said, that's a nice thick font, so it's pretty easy to just do a few dabs of glue and get that on there without the glue seeping out. Using my little clamps, again, if you have clothespins, that works. Then there are two places on the either side of the word spring that are cut out to do a flower on either one for placement. So I'm doing those two first, and then I'm just going to take the remainder of my flowers and put them randomly all over. I gave you a couple extra flowers. You can do as many or as few as you want. I think I did 3 or 4 on this. I did one on the word spring. I thought that looked cute. And I do one up off and to the right of the word, and then I get to work attaching the hello, and that is etched out too for your placement. You'll see it faintly through your paint when you put it on, but that's what that looks like when it is all put together. Then all is left to do is to take your hooks and feed them through and attach it to the front of your cathedral window shelf. We're going to make the mini flower circle insert that is going to magnetically attach at the top of our cathedral window. This is a quick little project and easy to do. It consists of the circle backer, the little stem, the flower piece, the magnet, and it's all packaged with your banner insert or your banner. I did a white background on the base. I did a yellow and green marker on the flower and stem. And remember, the stem and the leaves have the little engraved parts. If you get paint in those, just dig it out with your toothpick or your pen tool from last quarter's project. I'm going to show you how I do a little detail on the circle. I painted it all white first, then I just took my orange marker and did kind of like a half moon or an arc at the bottom and colored it in orange, just to give it a little more pop of color. Then I'm going to start assembling this and putting it together. I'm going to take my stem with the leaves and do just a couple of very tiny small dots of glue on the back of it and press it to hold. You're going to want to press it for a few seconds. And I just kind of have the stem aligned with the bottom of the circle. Then I'm going to take my flower and do a little bit of glue on the kind of the bottom point of the flower on either side, and I'm just holding it and then clamping it to the stem. Once that's done and all set, then you just need to get your little magnet piece. It does have an adhesive back to it. However, I noticed that mine doesn't adhere that great, or it loses its adhesion after a little bit of time. So I have went ahead and for most of mine I just do a small drop of glue on there before I remove the adhesive backing and do it. On this one I don't show that, but I do show it on the other ones because I have had my magnets come loose in the past, and if you do this it won't come loose. But once you have your magnet adhered, it is ready to put in your sign, and you are ready to start making the rest of your spring collection items. We are going to make the bunny and butterfly shelf insert for our project. This is going to go inside of that cathedral window shelf that we made earlier. And this consists of the base piece of the bunny and overlay with the ears, and then the nose goes on there in a separate piece, and the tail. So you want to keep track of those little pieces. They may be taped to the bunny to keep them in place when we shipped it, and that's just an easy way to keep track of them. It's going to come packaged with the flower patch with that pink label on the front. That's how you will find it in your box. And if you don't see the little items, just kind of look around the bag. They should be there. So I did a coat of white on everything first, including the nose. And the nose you can just do pink if you want, but it takes the pink better if you do it white first. And you've got your little etched lines that you're going to want to carve out with your toothpick or your pin pen tool. And then I'm coloring it in with some markers and then doing a little shading too with watercolor pencils. If you don't have that, markers are going to work just fine. But here I'm showing you with your toothpick, you can, or your pin pen tool, you can dig out those little lines to give it a good definition when you paint it. And same thing on the little butterfly. So now I'm going to show you how we do all the detail on all our little items. First of all, if you need a smaller little item to do your paint, you can cut off the top of one of your sponges that we have, the wedges. I like to do this with when I paint with a marker and I want it a more subtle color. I will dab it with a little bit of the sponge dabber on there and then just go over it again and keep blending it till I have a nice look that I want. I'm using the ballerina pink marker there, as you can see on the tail and on the nose. It gives it a nice subtle pink look. It doesn't give it too harsh of a pink look, and on this one I'm going for that more muted color for him. So I'm setting those little pieces aside so I just don't lose them. I like to do that. Now what I'm doing is I'm going to do a dry brush technique. Instead of brushing with brown or black, I'm going to use this steel gray again and an old bristle stencil brush. I like to use this to give detail around just a subtle shadowing effect with that gray. It's just not as harsh as like a black or a brown. And I'm doing that all around the base of the bunny. And I'm going to repeat this process around the overlay part with the head as well. Kind of going a little heavier on the ear parts and going along. And if you ever get too much shading on there, you can just go ahead and wipe it with a little bit of water. Now I'm taking, another way you can do it is with your watercolor pencils. I'm taking a little bit of a watercolor pencil and going along the side and doing some shading with that. And I'm just continuing to add on details here and there with the shading. This is an optional thing, and I have it sped up, but it goes pretty quick. Now what I'm doing here is I'm taking a gray marker, and just along the ear, I'm just doing a line and a couple of dots along both of the ear parts of the bunny, just again to give it a little more dimension. And if it gets too harsh, you can just go ahead and take your sponge stopper and kind of dab it out a little bit, like I'm doing right there. But I'm also doing it in the corner of the bunny. And I'm taking my pink and I'm just doing a little bit of a rosy cheek. You'll see I'm just dabbing, and I'm going in with that sponge to kind of blend it in, almost how you do like a makeup contour or something. Now I'm taking one of the watercolor pencils and I am going on the inside of each ear next to that highlight line that I made, drawing in a little pink, and then I'm just taking a little bit of water on the tip of a fine tip brush and blending that in. So there you've got the pink on each ear, and then the pink nose and the pink tail. So we'll go to work on the little butterfly part. There is an outline there, and I am coloring the body of the butterfly in a black, and I'm going in and kind of giving that an outline. I'm doing the wing in yellow, and I'm just going up against that line, and I'm just taking a quick look to make sure I'm doing a good job of it there. But I'm just going next to that line with the yellow. Once that's done, I'm going to finish coloring in the black, and then I'm going to take my fine tip black marker and I'm just going to do a couple dots around the wings to just give it a little extra character. Once that's done, it is time to start assembling our bunny, and he's pretty easy to put together. The first thing I'm going to do is that head overlay, and if you'll notice there's a little notch, and you'll see it on your project right where that ear should line up, right down there. And then I just take and kind of hold with the other hand and position that head so it lines up exactly with the base. I'm clipping that into place. I'm doing a little drop of glue, and then I'm getting the nose in place. Then I'm going to do a couple drops of glue in the little outline for the tail, and I'm placing the tail. Once that is all dry, your bunny is done and ready to be placed in the base piece. Let's work on the last part of our Easter collection, which is the flower patch. This is going to sit and have the bunny on top of it. It is packaged with the bunny, and it's got 6 little flower stems, and then the base piece, which consists of kind of that mound in the leaves. This is how I painted it. I did a coat of green over the whole leaf and mound, and then I'm going to go over that with a brown pencil on the mound part. I also did color in each flower with a marker. I did 2 yellow, 2 orange, and 2 blue. And then I'm just taking a brown marker here and showing you how I go over that mound part, and you can go over as many coats as you need. You don't have to paint it green. I did first. I just wanted to see what it looked like all green, knowing that I could go over it with that marker and fix it later if I didn't like it. And I did prefer the contrast of the brown and green on it as opposed to all green, like it was all grass and leaves. So that is what I chose to do, and I kind of just messy colored it because it's dirt. So I'm going to show you how I do the detail on the flower. I took my black marker and I just did a couple dots and dashes along the one edge of each flower to give that just that little extra dimension and stuff that we have been doing all along on our pieces. So once that's done, then this little item is really ready to be put together. And what I like to do is the bunny's going to sit in front of it in the middle. So I like to lay the bunny on top so I can see where I want to place my flowers. And I'm doing one color of each flower in a random spot on either side of that bunny. Once I have my placement down, I'm going to go ahead and just do a little dot of glue either on the back of each flower or on the leaf where I'm going to attach it. And I'm holding it down, letting it set up, and I'm just repeating that until I have all of the flowers glued down, and it's easy to, and they're kind of surrounding the bunny in a random manner. That way it's really easy to layer those pieces on that shell. Once that is done, you can certainly clamp those if you want, but they're so tiny you can just give it a good press and it will be ready to roll. Then once it's all done, you can go ahead and take your shelf and place your bunny and flower patch in there, and then our spring collection is complete. One final little glimpse of what all the spring collection items look like once they are made and displayed with the base piece. We're going to start making the St. Patrick's Day collection items. You are going to find these with the green labels in your box. The tree and the little gnome, Leprechaun Gnome, are packaged together. And the rainbow also has that green label. Your circle insert and banner are packaged together and they will have green labels on them. Your sign will be with all the other box signs, and then your garland tag, ribbon, everything for that is packaged well. We will start working on the 4-leaf clover box sign insert. So this is what the first time I did it, what it looks like, and we're going to throw it in there. We're going to do a slightly different technique on the next one. And it fits right onto that magnet in your box frame that we made previously. So this is the two pieces. You've got this buffalo plaid clover, the backer, and then of course the canning lid that's going to attach to the back. So what I did for the buffalo plaid leaf is I painted it a darker green, this fern, and I just used my sponge very lightly, and I'm going to show you that technique on the plaid. And then I did a lighter green on the base. If you don't have a lighter green, you can mix your dark green with a little bit of white, and then you get kind of that tone-on-tone look. And I'm going to show you right now what I did is, first of all, you could use a marker. And a marker is great because it doesn't get a lot of excess paint in those lines. If you don't have a marker, or the marker isn't the shade you like, but you have paint you like, go ahead and get a little paint out. You don't need much. I usually just use the paint that's in the lid. When I take the lid off the jar, I take my sponge, just put it like an edge of the sponge in there and dip a little out, and just very quickly dab lightly and quickly all over. And especially on those lines, you don't want to get a lot of excess paint in there. If you do, just take your toothpick and kind of gouge it out, and it'll take it out, and you'll get a nice neat look. You might have to go super light and do more than one coat. Just do that, and then your leaf will be all painted up. But the easy way out is to use the marker. And this is then, when I flip it over, you'll see what it looks like completely done. Now what you can do here is, once you've done your lighter green, I'm taking the darker green on the tip of the sponge still, and I'm going around the perimeter of that square base and just giving it a little dimension, because when it sits in that box frame, it's nice to have just the tiniest bit of offset or dimension or contrast to it. It just gives it a little bit of a better look. And there's different things you can do. You can wipe that with a wet rag if it's too dark. You can go around just with a marker if you want. What I'm doing here is just to give it a little bit more of an edge. I am taking my 220 grit sandpaper and I'm going along each edge, kind of exposing the base piece too. So I've got the dark edge, I've got a little bit of the light edge, and then I have the light green in the middle, just giving it that a little bit more dimension. So those are just some little things that you can try. And the nice thing about this is if you don't like how it looks, just flip it over and paint the back and start over. So once you have that all done, it is time to start assembling our pieces. So the easiest thing to do here is we're going to glue that clover to the base, and I like to flip it over, and I just, when it's a buffalo plaid type thing, I just put little glue dots on all those solid pieces. That way you don't have glue oozing out in between those lines or anything like that, and it gives it a very nice, neat look. So I'm going to figure out how I want it positioned on my base, and I'm going to press and adhere. Once that's done, I'm going to use a couple clips to secure it. I'm going to flip it over, and I am going to take the protective film off that adhesive dot, or adhesive tape that's on the back of that canning lid, and I am going to apply it as close as I can to the center. Once that's done, it's time to put your finished sign in the box frame and display it with the rest of your St. Patrick's Day decor. Let's make our Horseshoe and Clover garland tag for our St. Patrick's Day collection. This is a double-sided garland tag with a horseshoe on one side and a clover on the other. And it comes packaged all together like this. And you've got your special beads that are several different shades of green and some patterns. You've got some string, a D-ring, and some ribbon. So what I like to do is decide my color scheme. I did yellow on one side, white on the other side of the original. I am going to do just a little bit different on the one that I'm showing you so you can see what a different look looks like. I did that light green on the clover, and then on the other side I am going to do a dark green background instead of the yellow or white. So I'm going to do just like we have been in the past. I'm going to get a little bit of green on my sponge and paint this with the sponge, and if I get any excess in those little holes, I'll just dig it out with my toothpick or some sort of small little item. And like I said, I like to just work with the paint that's in the lid of the jar. A lot of the time I'll give the jar a good shake, and then I don't have to pour a bunch of paint on a paper plate or anything. So I'm starting in the middle and getting the bigger, more paint off in the middle, and then less paint off as the sides so I don't get too much into those holes. And I'm just doing that all around the circle until it's done. This green has got pretty good coverage. I probably did just one coat of it, I'm thinking, and the color is called Fern Green, and you can get that from Waverly, which is in Walmart. But really any green or shade that you want is fine. You could do both sides white and call it good. I just prefer to do the yellow on one side and the green on the other for this. And then I'm going to decide what goes on what. For the clover and the horseshoe, those are small enough to where you can just easily paint those with a marker if you prefer. So we're going to set this aside, and we are going to let it dry. And then when we are done with that, we will work on the other parts of our tag. So I'm deciding now if I like the black horseshoe on the dark or the light. I'm kind of just planning out my project. And while that's drying, we're going to go ahead and get working on the bead portion of our project. I'm just undoing the string here, doing that same little trick where I am cutting down on either side of that ribbon on the thread tie that you have. It makes a really good needle, and then you don't have to worry about it being sharp or losing it. It's no big deal. So now I'm going to take my string, I'm doubling it up, so I have a loop on one end and the two ends on the other. And same as we did in our previous one, I am taking that loop, I am threading it through the D-ring, pulling the loop through a little bit, getting a little slack, and then I am just pulling the rest of the string through that loop, so you have a simple loop that's tied on securely to the D-ring without a knot. So next I'm going to take my string and I'm going to decide the order that I want to string up my beads. You're going to have a 4-leaf clover bead, a dark green bead, a bead that's dark green with white dots, a couple of lighter green beads, then you're going to have a green and white plaid bead, a white bead, and my favorite is the metallic gold bead. I think that looks really neat. But I'm just deciding, I started out with the white bead, I went in with the clover, and I'm just feeding them on in a random fashion. It doesn't matter what way they go on. We're just going to feed them on, and then once that is done, then we will attach that to the tag once we have that all assembled. So I'm deciding what side I want my items on. If I want that dark on there or on the yellow, and same thing with the green, just kind of deciding what I like. And then I think I finally settled on putting that dark horseshoe because the yellow shows through those openings nicely. And I'm just deciding what I want for my top, and I just have to put one of those holes kind of at the top, how it's going to attach. And you'll see there that I did have a little too much glue. I just wiped it off with my sponge. You could do the same thing with a paper towel before it dries. And now I'm going to just make sure I have the same hole at the top, and I'm going to glue the clover on. And again, just a couple of little drop on the each clover leaf, and you're good to go. Once that is all dry and set up, then we're going to go ahead and we are going to feed the string through the back of the tag, and then around the back of the string, get rid of your excess, just like we have in the others. I went through the hole one more time, and I'm leaving just a small bit of slack because we do have ribbon. And I am going to go back up through a couple of those beads. So I'll feed my string back up through, and again getting rid of any excess if I have a lot of slack. And then I'm going to cut and snip so I have just a shorter string to work with. Take those two pieces of string, do one knot, flip it over, and then do a double knot around the string in the middle, and then you have a nice secure knot in your garland. You're going to go ahead and trim that up. And then again, hide that knot just within that bead. Take your ribbon, give it a good twist in the middle, and wrap that right around one knot around the base between that first bead and the tag. And I'm doing the same motion of the bird's beak edge, where you cut from the fold up and away. And again, if it frays, you can use fray check or a little bit of your glue to calm down the fray. And this is ready to attach to your garland base. We are going to make the lucky banner that goes with the St. Patrick's Day collection in this quarters box. And it will go on the front with those little hooks right on the front of the cathedral window. And it consists of a gold marker that I used to give these extra special kind of metallic highlights. I used a green marker on the shamrock and black paint on the rest. It comes packaged with your circle insert, and the lucky letters are adhesive. And then there's this little rim that goes across the top. So how I did mine was I painted the whole base yellow first. I just took my maize yellow paint and did the whole thing. And the reason I did that was I didn't want to worry about stopping and not getting paint in one area, because I'm just coloring over that bottom part with a black marker anyway, so the yellow isn't really going to show through. Now the black marker I'm using, it was a little juicy, so I had plenty of paint on there already, so I just took my sponge and took the extra ink out of that, what I had put on there, and just kind of wiped it through, using that line where the rim is going to go as my guide, and not bleeding up to where that yellow is, where I'm going to have my gold coins. So that is what that looks like, and I just used the same marker and I did the rim. Now to do the little lucky words, I just have a gold metallic marker that I went and I did 2 or 3 coats of it to give it a really nice luster on there. If you don't have a gold metallic marker, I would suggest investing in one. It gives it a really neat look on this project. You can get them at the craft store or as part of your set. Now to give the lucky a little bit more of the gold coins, more of a gold look, I'm taking my gold marker and I'm just doing a circular motion on each one of those bumps to make it look more like a coin. And then I'm doing more of that same circular motion and coloring in up to that line where the rim is going to go, to make it look like there's actual coins in the pot. It's like a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Then I'm going to take, to get even more definition in there, I've got a fine point, kind of a dark gray marker. I did not use black, I used dark gray to give it a more subtle look. And I'm just kind of going in and kind of in a arched motion like it would be a coin, going along each one of those. And if it's too harsh, I'll take my sponge and kind of blend it in. But it's just a way to give it a little more dimension and a realistic look, instead of just, a gold or yellow heap at the top of that. It looks more like a pot of gold. And then I'm just going over each one of those lines with my gold marker to kind of blend it in. And I just feel like it gives it a better effect than if I just would have left it flat. Once that is done, then we are ready to start going in and putting our pot together. And the letters, again, they are adhesive, and the clovers, you just need a dab of glue. So we'll do the clovers first, and just give them on with a dab of glue. You just need basically a dot, and there is a little, outline where they should go. So you just use that as your guide. It's hard to see with the black paint, but it'll be just faintly visible enough for you to easily place your clovers on. Since they are on there with glue, I just go ahead and use my clamps to hold it in while I'm doing the rest. The letters have a faint outline as well, so go ahead and get all the backing off the adhesive letters and get those on. We're going to do the rim. I'm giving it just a little sand with my sandpaper just to give it a little more dimension, so it isn't just black on black. It just gives a little more, character to it, and just a couple of dots here and there of your glue. And there is kind of an outline and edge to edge placement guide that you can use to get that on accurately. Once Once it's done, you're going to put your hooks in and then display it on the front of your shelf. It's time to make the Clover circle insert for our St. Patrick's Day collection. This is a 2-piece project, and then the third piece would be the little magnet that's there. The background of it does have these little lines, and it's easiest to use a marker and then use your little pin pen or toothpick to get the lines crisp. And it comes packaged with your banner. There's also a little clover, and then again the adhesive magnet that goes on the back. So I went ahead and painted this yellow with a marker. I did that instead of paint, and then I took that pin pen, or you can use your toothpick, to drag and get those score marks nice and clean. I then did a marker on the green as well for the clover, and then you've got your adhesive backing. So to put this together, it's quite easy. You're going to take your clover, just a drop or two of glue on the back of that is all you need, and you will press it to the middle of the circle there and give it a good press, or clamp it if you would like to use your clamps or clothespin. Then you're going to turn it over on the back. You're going to remove that adhesive on the back of the magnet. That's on the white side of the magnet. You're going to take that white tape off of it. And if you want to make sure that that magnet stays really well, I would go ahead and put a small dot of glue on the back of the circle. Like I said, sometimes that adhesive isn't super strong on those magnets and they don't stay very well, so a small, just a teeny tiny drop of adhesive with that will work great. So you have the instant adhesive of the sticky back and then the permanent of the glue. And then this is ready to insert into the circle insert of your cathedral window base. Our next project is this fun little Leprechaun Gnome. Here's an up-close look at him. He is going to match nicely with the rest of our St. Patrick's Day decor. And he comes packaged with the little tree that we'll be making next, and of course has the green labels on it for St. Patrick's Day. And this consists of the base, the hat, and the nose, of course, and then he's got a little adhesive buckle that goes on there, a small clover, and his shoes. All the pieces of this are quite tiny. Make sure you've got them all. They should be packaged again with that heart tree that is in your kit. So the easiest thing to do with this for me was I went ahead and painted the base of the hat all yellow, and then I did the base white. I used a white marker or black marker on the shoes and on the buckle. And when you do, I'm just going to show you quickly, when you do the white on the base and they have these scored lines, you can just take your toothpick or your pin pen tool and then just drag it in that scored line to bring it back. I like that because the scored lines really give us some nice definition. But there you can see where there was paint in that, and I'm just dragging it and the scored line comes back. And you can always wipe the excess off. But you want to go light-handed with your paint. You don't want to get it on there too heavy. You don't want to get it glopping over the edges. And if it's in the scored lines, which that's going to happen, you will just drag it through with your toothpick or your pin pen, and that will get it back to its nice crisp state. And if you get any on the side, just wipe it off while it's wet with a wet wipe or your finger, and that should take care of it. If that doesn't, you can go over it with a black marker if you want. So on his base, we're also going to do a little bit of work on his beard. We will go ahead and do some some highlights with that later. And the other thing we're going to do is on the bottom of that beard are his pants. So what I'm doing is I am taking my finest tipped green, dark green marker that matches my dark green thicker marker, and I am going around on the beard with that right up close to that line. And I'm taking the fatter marker and I'm coloring in, and that is going to keep that edge nice and clean. Now if I happen to get green marker on where the beard is, I can just take my Q-tip and dab it right over that with some white paint. But this gives you a nice clean edge and just makes coloring in the rest of it easy. You don't really have to color in over onto the shoes. I did just a little bit, but those black little shoes are going to cover the little indent there or cut out for the feet. So on the hat, I'm going to do the same thing. I am going to take that green marker, and on either side of the band of the hat, I am going to go ahead and go right up to that with my green marker. Now the reason I did that whole hat in gold first is because if you do the lighter color first, it's just easier to color in with the darker marker. For me, that's what I prefer to do. You don't have to do that yellow, but that dark green, the black, the brown, they kind of cover up that bottom layer of paint. And it just gives it a nice look. Again, I'm coming in with my green marker. I'm just going right up to that edge where I painted and blending it all in. And I will do the same thing on the bottom. That fine, and if you don't have the fine edge, like my markers actually have where you can pull that tip out, rotate it around, and you get a finer tip. So you can do that as well. I just have both sets, so I use the skinny markers for some purposes and the fat markers for others. Think of it as detail and fill in. So now I've got my hat complete, and I am going to take the adhesive backing off that buckle, and I am going to put that in the middle of that yellow band. And then my hat will have the buckle on, and you can straighten it and then press it down to permanently set it. Then I'm going to do a small drop of glue on the clover that I colored yellow. Could have went over it with my gold as well, and that's going at the top. So then I'm going to work on doing the mustache and beard accents. I am again just taking that steel colored gray, and I am dipping my little stiff bristled brush in there and then daubing it off on a paper towel, and then just going in kind of along those curved lines to mimic the mustache, and then to mimic the curve of the beard. I'm just kind of going along the curve of those lines there. And if it's too heavy-handed, I can water it down, or I can go in with a little more white paint if I don't like how it looks. I'm just going over the edges as well, just to kind of take the harshness off those and giving him a more realistic look. So now I'm going to work on getting the hat on, and that lines up perfectly with the top. So just get it lined up there. And once you have it lined up and adhered, it's not overlapping over one side more than the other, I'm going to clamp it on. Then I just left the nose yellow on this just for contrast. You could do a flesh color on the nose if you wanted. That ballerina pink works really well. I just did yellow for something different. And then I'm just taking a dab of glue on the bottom of each shoe and lining those up with the outline on each one. It does not matter left or right which shoe goes where, they're identical. And then he is ready to go in your tray as well. Next St. Patrick's Day project is the heart tree. The finished product looks like this. It's going to consist of the tree base, an overlay with the hearts, and then all the little hearts that were cut out I include. We are only going to use 3 of them in this project. The rest you're going to put away. We're going to use a couple on the rainbow, and the others you can just sprinkle throughout. There's also a piece of twine. So what I did here was I did a marker on the overlay and a light green paint on the tree base, and yellow on the hearts. I just use markers for that. And then I'm using a black marker to just kind of come in and fill in this area of the bottom of the tree and then each stem. Once I have that all done, I'm going to do a little placement and see what the hearts look like. Make sure I've got the black going up as far as I need it to go. And if there's a little space between where the black starts and ends and the heart overlay does, then I'm coming in with my black marker and I'm just filling in up a little bit farther on each of those stems. Now you don't have to make the stems a different color, or if you want to make them brown, you can do that. I just like the contrast of the black and the green together. So that I've got done. So now I'm going to take the heart overlay and just kind of do a dry fit on it. Make sure that it is good and it fits. And I'm doing just a teeny bit of glue here and there, and I'm going to get that lined up using my fingers as placement and making sure I don't have it overlapping more on one side than the other. And it should be good. What I'm going to do next then is I reserved one of the big hearts and two of the small hearts. And as you can see on the finished product, I did glue the big heart at the top and the smaller hearts on either side. And you can do that by just putting a dot of glue into each one that you want to do. And they're all kind of, the little ones are all the same size and the big ones are all the same size, so it doesn't matter which one you put in which slot, they should fit just fine. Now for the final touch, there's that little slot in the middle of the tree. I just feed a cord or a bit of twine up through there. There's one included in this project. And I make just a little shoelace bow, and then I just manipulate that twine because it often it's stiff and it has a mind of its own, so I'm just kind of manipulating it and doing a second knot so it will take the ends of the string down at the bottom of the bow, and I'm just cutting off the excess, and this project is done and ready to be displayed with the leprechaun you just made. Let's make a rainbow. This next little rainbow is a fun little project. It consists of the rainbow base. You're going to take, and it comes packaged all by itself with a couple of little clovers. Then you're going to take a couple of those hearts from the last project and do them. Now this is where you really want to use that pin pen or your toothpicks to score out after you paint this. The easiest way to do this project is to do a layer of white on everything. One coat is fine, that's fine. And then while that white paint is wet, you're going to want to drag that pin pen through there or your toothpick that I provide and get that line nice and crisp, and that's going to give you your nice definition. And then I'm doing one part of this gold and I'm doing the other part of it green, and I'm leaving the middle stripe white. And I'm using that same technique that we did on the leprechaun, where I'm using a fine point marker and I'm getting all the way up to that line, and then I'm coming through with a thicker marker and filling it in. And if you get any extra, of course you can wipe it off or paint off or whatever, but I just used that gold marker on there. Now I'm doing that same thing on the green. I'm taking my fine point green and I'm getting right up next to that line, and then I'm going to take my green marker and do the fill in from that thin line to the edge. And that way you're going to get the neatest look between the rainbow stripes and a nice clean look. And this is what mine looks like in the end. And then I took the hearts and painted them green and yellow, and same thing with the clovers. and I just use markers for that. And I'm just doing a little placement on whatever I want. Now you could use more hearts. You've got more hearts from that tree you could use. I just decided to go minimal and use a couple, but you could use as many as you want. And I like the look of the gold and green offsetting, so if the clover is more yellow, I'll put it more on the green and white. If it's more green, I'll put it more on the yellow and white, and just kind of stagger them down like that. Once it's done, then this will go in your shelf with your leprechaun and heart tree. And here is all our St. Patrick's Day collection projects in their completed state. Our next collection we'll be working on is our Easter collection. That is going to come packaged with the pink labels. The square sign is going to be with all the other square signs in that box sign base. And then you've got your 2 bunnies and flower pot that are packaged together. You've got your circle insert and banner that's together, and the Can Garland Tag. I don't know about you, but to me nothing's cuter than a cartoon bunny butt, and that's what this sign is all about. So this is what's going to go in the box sign for your Easter collection. It's got a shiplap engraved and then placement lines engraved for your word and the bunny butt part. And then of course the little disc that's going to go on the back to attach. So what I did for the base is I just took my antique wax and put it on with a sponge, wiped it off, and then drug my pin pen through the lines. And then this has got some placement lines in the bunny butt and on the feet, and I colored in pink on those, and you'll see that right there. I'm using on the small dots, I'm using the actual fine print or fine tipped ballerina pink marker, and I used the wider one on the back of the bunny. So that is how I did that, and that's pretty quick. As you can see, I did paint the base of the feet and the bunny backside in white first, and then drug my tool, or I guess you could also use your toothpick to just drag through and get those lines nice and defined. And then I am using my orange marker to go ahead and color in the word hop. Now that has got an adhesive backing to it, and despite it being 3 letters, it's just one piece, so it's very easy to color and transfer onto your project with that adhesive backing. Once I have that all colored, then it's just a simple matter of putting all your pieces and parts together. And I like to get my pieces and parts all put together if anything needs to be assembled before the sign. So what I'm going to do next are taking the large oval piece that is the bunny backside. I'm going to go ahead and take that piece, and I am going to look at the placement marks for it, and I am going to put a little bit of glue in that placement mark for the bunny tail and get that lined right up there, and press and hold that, and that's going to overlap over the top a little bit. Then there is a place scored out for each foot. I'm going to put a little glue into that space, take one of the feet and adhere that one, and I'm just going to use a clasp on that while I do the other foot and get that placed, and I'll clasp that as well and just get it good and adhered. Let that sit for a minute. I will work on that hop. There is a faint outline for that there as well. I'm going to remove the adhesive backing off that word and get it pressed on there. Then I'm going to take the bunny butt and do all kinds of glue on the back of it to get it good and adhered, and we'll take a look at that outline and get that on there as well. If your clothespins reach, that's great. Mine were too short. So that is it for that project. I'm going to flip it over and get the protective backing off that adhesive tape on the canning lid and press and hold that to get that adhered, and then insert it into the square sign base. The next project is going to be about the easiest one in the pack. It is the Beaded Garland Carrot, and this is going to be the tag for the Easter garland tag. And it's pretty easy. Basically, it's all pre-made. You're going to take that twine at the top, cut it in half, slide your D-ring on, and tie a knot. Do 1, 2, so you have a double knot, and the knot will actually be concealed by all that ribbon and the greenery that's already attached. Cut off the excess and attach it to your base garland that we made earlier, and this project is complete. The next project for our Easter collection is the Easter egg banner. This is different than the other banners. It is strung on. It comes packaged with the circle insert. And instead of using the hooks on this one, we are going to wind it around those little pillars and attach it, and I'll show you how that goes a little bit later. But basically, I am going to paint all those eggs white, and then the letters, I'm going to do those in a marker, and it also comes with twine and something to string the twine through. So I am going to do purple, blue, and orange for the letters, and I'm going to have every other letter a different color. So I am just sorting them out on my tape and going to do them like that. And then I'm just doing them with our markers like we've been using our markers all along. I'll show you on a couple, and then I'll bring it back when they're all colored in. And now I'm going to just lay them out and get them on the eggs that I've already painted white. I just use my sponge dabber, and then the letters are adhesive, so I'm just eyeballing them and getting them toward the center of each egg, right below the 2 little dots that we are going to do the string through. And this is what they look like as I get each one attached. Once we're ready to attach, you are going to take your twine and you are going to take your twist tie, and you're going to come up through the back of the R on the right hole, and then down through the left hole. And you are going to repeat that with each hole as we go along. Now on the first one, you want to leave a few inches off so you have something to tie it to the pillar with. And you've got plenty of extra on the twine. I gave you several inches extra. You probably have 3 times more than what you even need. So when the next one comes through, then the E, we want to bring that as kind of close to the R, but leave a small space between them. You see they kind of naturally hang that way. So this is what they look like as they all get attached. Now I'm going to show you how I put it on the cathedral window. I just go ahead and I wrap it 3 or 4 times around the pillar, thread it under and around a couple more times, and then I am going to do the same thing on the other pillar, around and kind of through between that last letter and the pillar, kind of to make it somewhat of a knot, but I just don't want it permanent because I want to be able to take this off. Okay, then I'm going to take the excess and I'm going to take a little bit of painter's tape and I'm going to tape the excess to the bottom. So I'm just going to flip it up and run that excess right along the back of that pillar and tape it to the bottom. And I just feel that's the best way to do the temporary hold. keep it as permanent as possible or as tight as possible. And I'm cutting off a little bit of excess there. But there your banner is on your window. To make the circle insert for our Easter set, which is a carrot, a pair of carrots. You've got your backer, your carrot, and your magnet. The carrot has got little lines on it. There's 4 little dots on the backer, and of course you've got your adhesive magnet. I just did yellow maize on the backer, or you could do a yellow marker. I did orange marker all over the carrot, and then I'm going over the top leaf part with green. It was just easier for me to do the whole carrot than worrying about being neat because it's so tiny. And I just used the fine point green, and that made it quite easy to just color in those little leaves at the top, or the greenery at the top. And then I am having one of the holes be at the very top and putting the carrots as a crisscross right in the middle. If your carrots get the lines clogged, of course use your toothpick or your little pin pen tool from the last quarter box to clean them out. Attach your magnet, do 1 little drop of glue, and then add it to your cathedral base. Our next Easter project is the Skinny Bunny. This consists of the bunny base and an overlay, and then a small piece of string to put around to add as a little scarf or accent for the bunny. It comes packaged in your orange label projects with the other bunny and the other flower pot, or the flower pot project. I did a white base coat on both pieces and then just used my scoring tool or a toothpick to dig out if any white paint got into those scored marks for the eyes and nose and mouth. And then once it's done being painted white, I'm going to go in and I'm laying the overlay over it because you're going to color in a little bit of pink on the ears, and you can do the whole ears and then the middle of the belly. So I'm just laying that over there to see where I need to do that pink. And I just didn't want to do it places where it might show, so outside of it, but it's safe. So you just kind of lay that over there and keep checking it for reference. And I am going to do a little bit of distressing on this with my gray ink, just like I did my other projects as well. And then I'm also adding a couple of little pink dots. Sorry that got off screen, but pink dots for rosy cheeks. So I'm just taking my dry brush and I'm going to do a little bit of accents on the feet and around the edges of the bunny, and then you'll see me doing that in just a second. I'm again just using that steel gray as the accent and using that dry brush technique that we have been using throughout the video. A little bit to scuff up his feet, a little bit around the edges. It just gives a little more dimension to the project as to everything just being flat, pure white. I just feel like bunnies and all the carrots and everything, they're outside. We might as well just dress them up like they've been in the dirt a little bit. When it's time to adhere it, I'm just doing drops of glue on the bunny face, tips of the ears, and around those wider parts of the belly. And you'll line it up at the top, and at the bottom the feet will stick out from the base. And then the overlay does line up with the top and the bottom. So I'm just doing that. There we go. And I'm using a clasp to just kind of hold it together. Then you've got a little piece of pink and white twine. You're going to double that up, loop that around, just like this, feeding the ends through the loop, giving it a good tight tug. And then I'm going to just tie a knot at the end and pull that tight and give the excess a snip, and it's just a little accent for our bunny. And then your bunny will go in your shelf and wait for the other parts of the collection to be added. Our next project for this collection will be the flower pot shelf insert, and it consists of your base, and there's a little etched out area for an Easter egg and 2 flowers and overlays for the flowers and the pot, and it comes packaged with your other Easter projects, the 2 bunnies. And to do this project, basically most of the painting is going to be done on the pot. I'm just going over the base of the pot with that antique wax. And then there's a little grass or leaf overlay. I just use a green marker on it, and I use the same green marker on the stems and the leaves of the flowers. I'm going to leave the middle part of the flower blank because it's just going to have another flower glued over it. Then I'm just using a yellow marker, I think it's called bumblebee yellow, to do the little stems coming out of the flowers. And I'm going to get to work on the Easter egg. I am doing a bright pink in the middle stripe, and then I am doing a blue below that and above it. So I have a pink and blue Easter egg in the middle. And then the flowers, I painted 1 blue and 1 orange, just using markers, and I'm just doing that little accent thing where I take a black marker and do a small accent on the outer part of the flower. Now all there is to do is to glue on your pieces. So take your glue and put a dot on each flower base and do the flower overlay on top of each one. Clamp it if you need to. Then I'm going to take a little bit of glue and put it on the back of the little grass or leaf overlay on the pot and get that on there. And then just take my clamps and transfer them to that, and this project is done and ready to be added with your bunny in the Easter collection. The final project for our Easter collection is the bunny gnome, and he's a little bunny that's kind of sitting in an Easter egg and holding an Easter egg. So he's got a bunch of scored lines you're going to want to keep clean on his base and the overlay. There's shoe or feet overlay, a nose, a little egg he holds, and 2 little hands. So there's lots of little pieces to him. He comes packaged with the skinny bunny in the flower pot, and you'll just want to make sure you keep all his pieces together. So I did a bright pink on the egg, and I colored his nose and his hands in kind of that same orange we've been using for the carrot. I used markers on all that. I did white on the base, white on the overlay, and white on the feet overlay. And on the base and the overlay for the ears, the top overlay, there are scored lines. You're going to want to keep those nice and clean using your toothpick and using your scoring tool that you got in the last quarters box. And I'm doing a nice bright pink on the inside of the ears, and I'm just trying to stay within that line. If I go out a little bit, it's no big deal because the overlay will cover it, but I'm just kind of putting that up there to see where I'm at. And then I'm just doing the same thing with the little paw pad prints or whatever. The overlay is going to go right over it. I just don't want to get too much pink, so I'm going where somebody might see it. So I'm going to go ahead and color within those little marks for the foot pad. And then I'm going to be doing that. I'm leaving the top part of the egg and the bottom part of the egg white, and I'm going to take my steel and I am going to go ahead and do that same dry brush technique on the overlay for the top, kind of like his ears and I guess the brim of a hat. Just doing a bit of gray on that, and then I'm going to do the same gray dry brushing technique on the middle of the bunny, so he just isn't so white, to make him more look, you know, he's been out in the dirt or whatever, or he just cracked out of an egg and he's got a little dirt. And I'm I'm doing a little bit of the dry brushing also on the little feet overlay, just to give them that look too. So you'll see that on all these. It's just a very subtle look, and it's just that dry brush. And the brush I'm using is just an old stencil brush, but you can use whatever you want. I'm a little bit out of frame here, but you can see where he is getting a bit of, I'm just trying to make it in a beard look, or just dirty look, and I'm staying within the score mark for the top and bottom of that egg. So once all our pieces are colored, then it's just a matter of putting everything together. I've got the, and I'm gonna maybe do, oh yes, I'm doing a little accent with my black marker on the egg, just to give it a little extra dimension as well. Just to line in a couple dots, like I've been doing on all our projects throughout this collection. And you can kind of see up close there what I've done. Once that is done, then we're going to go ahead and put together everything. So just make sure you have all your parts together. The first thing I'm going to do is just that overlay over the top of the ears. Getting that lined up with the top of each ear and using my fingers to just get it good and in place. And I can use one of my clasps or to just hold that in place. Then I'm going to do each foot. It doesn't matter which one is the left or right, they're the same. And they're going to go over that. And you'll do the other foot. And then it's just a matter of placing that egg and little hands on the body of the gnome to kind of see where you want those. Oh, and also, of course, the nose. We got to get the nose in there. And I just painted that orange with a marker. So there is the hand, there is the other hand and the egg, and I've just left the other two on there. And then I'm just getting one of the hands in and giving that a hold and getting it set. And then I'm going to do the egg right up next to that hand, and then I will do the other hand and letting that adhere. And then your bunny gnome is complete, as well as your Easter collection. This is what the finished projects look like in your Easter collection. There's one optional extra set that you may have purchased for this kit. It is the He Is Risen collection, and we are going to go over how to make all these items next. Our first project in this extra optional kit that you can purchase is the country church sign that's going to go in the square insert. I just did a coat with my antique wax on the base. And then there's your little accent pieces of the windows, cross, and roof peaks that are in black. And I did a coat of white on the church, the doves, and the little front entry part. Now for the little windows, I took my bumblebee yellow, and in the fine tip marker I did the little window inserts. That way it looks like there's a little Easter sunrise coming through the church. I also did it in the middle as well, and you just want to make sure that the entry fits over that and you don't overdo it on that middle part of yellow. Once you get it all glued on, it'll be fine. Now the adhesive backing for this kit is on the cross and the two little windows because they're very thin. You'll need to use glue on the roof peaks. There's two smaller ones. One is going to go on the very top. The other is going to go on the top of that little entry piece that it's sitting on. You just want to line those up. The middle larger roof peak is going to go right across the middle. There you go. And you'll just want to press and hold that. And of course line up your edges so it doesn't overlap crooked anywhere. And then you're going to want to get the little roof peak on the, I guess I'm going to call it the entryway of the church. And you'll peel off the backing on each window and line those up to make sure they cover up the yellow. And there's a little outline there for placement. And finally, we're going to glue the little entry of the church, the front door of the church on. This is such a cute little project, and it doesn't even necessarily have to look for Easter. It's kind of neat, almost like a wedding theme too, or just, the country church. So go ahead and get it on the base. There's no outline for doing it. I just lined it up in the middle as best I could and at the bottom. And then I'm going to glue each one of the doves like they're flying toward the church. And then this one is ready, after all the glue dries and everything, to have a canning lid attached to the back. An additional canning lid is sent with your extra set, so you can attach it. But this is what the finished project looks like. We're going to make the garland tag for our risen set, and this is a pretty easy project. It just consists of a little cross, kind of a rustic cross, and then some beads and a D-ring and string, just like our other garland tags have. This is painted on both sides with the antique wax or brown paint or whatever color you want. And then you're going to work on getting your loop through your D-ring, just like we have on all our other projects. And then we're going to string on our beads. So you're going to take your twist tie needle and put the 5 beads on. They're just small natural wood beads. I'm leaving them natural for that rustic look that we're going with this set. I'm stringing it through the hole at the top of the cross, bringing it around the back, and I'm going to go through that hole on the cross one more time. And there is no ribbon for this project. I wanted to leave it in that natural rustic look, so we are going to get rid of as much slack as possible when we start to feed our string back up through those beads. So you're going to take your string just like we have before, and you're going to go up through 3 or 4 beads, or 2 or whatever, just a couple. You're going to pull so it's nice and taut, and there isn't a ton of slack. And just keep pulling. There we go. And then you're going to cut off your excess string, and we're going to do that same method where you do the one, like half of a square knot on one side, and then you're going to flip it over, and around the string in the middle you're going to do a full square knot. Once you do that, you're going to take your scissors and give that nice trim, and slide the beads up over that knot to conceal it, and then attach your cross to the garland base, and this project is ready for you to display. The banner for this project is quite easy as well. It consists of 2 parts, and the base, I just did my antique wax again and wiped it off, and I did white on a, you can do a white marker or white on a Q-tip basically to get that, but or you can paint it whatever you want as far as a color. But I just thought the white on the brown looked very classic and nice. And you're just going to put a little glue on the back and adhere that, and then when the glue is set, your project is ready to go on the front of your cathedral shelf. We are going to go ahead and make the circle insert for this extra set, and it's a cross on a circle. The circle's got some scored lines that you're going to want to make nice and crisp after you paint it. I just did a yellow marker over the base and scored out those lines really good, and I did brown on this bottom little semicircle piece. Then I took my brighter yellow marker and went on either side of those lines on the right and left hand side and filled that in, so you've got kind of like a gradient look of two different kinds of yellows on there. For the cross, I made that green. I just took my green marker and went over it, and then I'm going to apply a tiny little bit of glue on the back, press it down so it's within that circle there, and it looks like it's sitting on the brown section. And it kind of looks like a cross in the sunrise for Easter Sunday. And then I'm taking a small bit of glue and then my adhesive magnet that will come with your extra set and getting that adhered and displaying it with the banner we just made. The next project we are going to make is two things in one. Basically, it's a set of two Easter lilies. One goes on the left-hand side, one goes on the right-hand side. I painted them all white and I did the stems in green, and the little yellow sprouts coming out, I did those in a yellow marker. And scored anything that needs scoring, just like we have in all our past projects. I'm doing just a little bit of distressing and antiquing around the edges of this project. And then it's just a matter of lining up the correct overlay with the correct base. So you're going to want to do that and use your glue then on the back of each overlay to line up with each base and get those adhered. And you can see where it's kind of narrow on one side and wider on the other, and that's how you're going to line them up. There's really only one way they can go. So after you get them all painted, just kind of do a test run with lining them up and then getting them adhered. And like I said, your markers are your best friend on this project for getting everything all colored in. It's nice and scored out where you need to start and stop with the markers. And then they look really nice when you just kind of lay them inside the cathedral window. Well, here we are. We're at the final project of our extra set and of this video. So this is the cross and dove. The cross, you are just going to go ahead and paint just one side if you want. If you want to do both sides, that's up to you. And the dove, I did a base of white on, and I did brown on the cross, the antique wax that I've been using. So once I got the dove painted, I did yellow on the beak, and then I'm just doing my same dry brush technique kind of around the overlay, just to give it that little bit of dimension on the wings and tail, and a little bit on the base as well. Then when that is done, I am going to glue the two pieces of the bird together, and the overlay just goes right over where the tail lines up and the head lines up. And so you're just going to want to press those together so you don't have anything, overlapping on an edge or something like that. And I'm just carefully doing that. The nice thing about this glue is you have a few seconds before it's final. Once it's final, you give it a good clamp or a push, and it just takes a few seconds. I'm just going to take the twine that's included, loop it through on the closed end and pull the open end through, and make a knot at the top with the two strings of twine. And then I'll just take my scissors and snip off that excess. Finally, I'm going to take the dove that was glued together, and I'm going to glue the dove at the intersection of the cross at the very top. Just put a little bit of glue on there, give it a press, we can clamp it down if needed, and then this project is ready, and your entire Easter set is ready for display. So let's go ahead and add the cross in with everything else and see what this set looks like all together. With that, I would like to thank you for joining us on this quarterly box for spring 2024. I'm going to let the music play and let you see the rest of the items as I displayed them for staging and taking photographs. Thanks so much for joining us, and we will see you on the next video.